Girlfriends just don't know when to quit. She kept on nagging and complaining, but that wasn't enough. So she started yelling and pushing, and that wasn't enough. So I threw her against the door. Her head hit the handle, and she fell to the floor. She had been furious before I pushed her. Now she lay on the ground whimpering, tears streaming down her cheeks. And all I could think was that couldn't have hurt. I barely pushed her. She barely hit the door. And I kept yelling at her, "Be a man! Just be a man!" Don't let the pain bother you. Just block the pain out. Forget it ever happened. That's how I did it. My dad used to hold me down. While I twisted my arm back, the pain would be piercing. He would keep twisting until it would almost break, and he would say, "That doesn't hurt. Quit complaining. Be a man." So I learned to block the pain out. I would hold the rage in, let myself suffer quietly, toughen myself up so I could be a man. In elementary school, I used to beat my friends up. I remember I had two best friends, and I hurt them both. It got so bad that my friend's mom came to me crying. She said, "Quit teasing my son and hurting him." But her son was just so weak. It was as if I felt a duty to toughen him up, to make him stronger. But he only broke down, and he only got weaker. We were in the second grade. When I got to high school, I got in the first big fight of the year. At lunch, he approached me on the street, walking towards me aggressively, ready to fight. I didn't think, I just did what I knew. I took him down and had him pinned, choking him, ready to rub his face against the concrete, when I was suddenly pulled back. And while I was being constrained, he punched me repeatedly in the face. I tried to kick him because I was restrained, but I missed. He hit me again in the nose. I could feel the blood gushing from my eye, and my nose was smashed sideways. At the hospital, they bent the cartilage back into place. When I got home, my face was swollen up like an orange, and my eye was black and cut open. My dad glared at me as if I was the most pathetic person he had ever seen. He kept saying, "How could you lose? Didn't I teach you to fight? You never let someone get back up." All I could think was how I had failed, how weak I had become. I would never lose a fight again, no matter what it took. From then on, I never fought fair. It started with baseball bats, then went to knives. I always carried a knife. Then my friends started getting guns. I never preferred guns. I couldn't control my temper. I loved to squeeze the trigger and watch things explode. So I stuck with knives and bats. I like to feel myself crushing things, breaking things, hurting the people that had hurt me, watching people suffer. Now they could suffer like me. Over the years, I'd become numb. I blocked out the pain, and I stopped feeling joy. I stopped being happy, and I just used drugs. Horrible things happened. My friend stabbed someone in the back during a methamphetamine rage. Another time, my friend smashed someone's head against the curb. There were those that were practically beat to death with baseball bats, and others who were tied up at gunpoint while they pissed their pants. And there were those that threatened to kill me as I begged them on my knees, "Please don't crush my face." I kept thinking about when my friend got his front teeth smashed through his upper lip, when my friend was thrown through a glass door, when I watched my friend die. I couldn't stand the numbness. I needed to feel something. For all the horrible things I'd done, for all the people I hurt, I would take my fist and hit my own jaw. I would headbutt the wall. I would punch my legs and smash chairs, anything to feel the pain. I just wanted to feel again. One time, I punched myself in the face and gave myself a black eye. When I went to work the next day, they asked me what happened. I told them I fell down. I covered for myself. How could anyone understand? How could the abuser be me? I got to the point where I had to choose to let my hatred die because I couldn't stand it anymore. It was time to break the cycle, to stop the alcohol abuse, to stop the violence of my father and the violence of my father's father, of all the men in my family who had killed in the name of honor. It was time to break the silence, to speak the truth about the abuse, to finally be honest about who I wanted to be. It was time to break the cycle. This legacy must not continue. The women in my life were holding me accountable. They had become my greatest support and motivated me into action. They created a space for me to release my pain and cry. These women pushed me to stop my patriarchal and misogynistic behaviors and encouraged me to work with other men who needed healing. I tried to come clean to all those I hurt. It was a difficult task for me to acknowledge the bad things I had done to people, to remember the awful things I had done to women, and to think about the things I had been through with other men. I wrote down a list of everyone I had fucked over, all the people I'd robbed, beaten, or lied to, and I read this list to my dad. Hundreds of things I had done. It was extremely hard for me to take responsibility because it made me hate myself for what I had become. How could anyone ever forgive me for the violence I had done to them? I wanted to run from the past so bad, I just wanted to kill myself. I asked my dad, how did I become so violent? Where did I learn this violence? Give me some insight into the violence of the men in our family. Instead, my dad told me I was born evil, and if I wasn't his son, he would have had nothing to do with me. I told my girlfriend I would get help, and she stood by me because I was willing to change, because I acknowledged my responsibility for what I had done to her. I shared with her the pain from my past and my childhood, and the things that happened to me that contributed to my violent behaviors. So I reached out to other men and women, and I let myself continue to cry. The memories that haunted me ran down my cheeks. I spoke the disturbing thoughts out loud until there was nothing more to tell. Then I began to listen. I heard the stories of others. I listened to women talk about their experiences of rape and abuse. I listened to men talk about their experiences of molestation, of being beaten. I listened to the pain in their stories, and I saw through my own self-hatred. I could see myself in others. The first time I hugged my dad in my adult life, he almost cried. He told me he had never hugged his dad. He didn't think he would ever hug me again. I hugged him harder and I said I loved him. He looked into my eyes and told me he could not believe I was his son. It is time for men to tell their stories, for men to tell the truth about being men and begin this healing process. Because there is no need for this pain, and this legacy must not continue. How can I judge someone for something I have done myself, lost in the confusion of drugs, playing out the trauma of past abuse, using violence to survive in a cruel world, lashing out at the world just to be seen? So I've offered myself in service. I've chosen to be a witness to the pain of men, to find respect for even the most horrific abuser and redemption for the most awful deeds. Let the truth of our stories and our efforts to create healing free us from the bondage of our suffering, so that we may bask in the glory of our love and celebrate the day men learn to love themselves and love each other. The question remains, can we learn to love ourselves?